When Frank Morrison grabbed my arm outside Morrison's car wash, his face was ghost white. "Barb, you need to get Jessica and those kids away from Derek today." 2 hours later, I sat in my daughter's living room with evidence that would destroy everything she believed about her perfect marriage. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me back up to that Tuesday morning in September 2025. I'd volunteered to pick up Derek's BMW from the car wash, doing my daughter a favor like I'd done 1,000 times before. At 64, 3 years widowed, I'd become the family's convenient helper. Need babysitting? Call mom. Need errands? Call mom. Need someone to fade into the background while they live their important lives? Call mom. I pulled into Morrison's around 10 o'clock. Frank was standing by the entrance, and my heart did that stupid flutter it always did. We dated 40 years ago, back when big hair and shoulder pads were fashionable and we thought we had all the time in the world. Life had other plans. I married Jim. Frank married Sarah. But after Sarah passed 5 years ago, we developed a comfortable friendship built on shared history, and the kind of affection that doesn't fade with time. "Barbara Hayes," he said, but his usual warm smile was missing. His weathered hands gripped a manila envelope like it might explode. "We need to talk private." He pulled me into his small office and locked the door. The envelope shook slightly as he handed it to me. "My guys found this wedged under Derek's driver's seat. Fell out when they were doing the deep clean. Inside was a Maryland driver's license." Derek's face stared back at me, but the name read David Brennan. A second license showed the same face with the name Derek Morrison. Different birth dates, different addresses. My legs went weak. "There's more," Frank said quietly. He showed me printed emails about property transfers, bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, and a reservation confirmation for 2 adults and 2 children on a one-way flight to Costa Rica. Departure date: October 15th, 3 weeks away. "Frank, I don't understand. Why would Derek need multiple identities?" "Because he's done this before." Frank pulled up a news article on his phone. My son-in-law's face smiled from the screen beneath a headline. "Con man sentenced to 5 years for identity fraud and bigamy." The room tilted. That can't be Derek. Jessica met him 10 years ago at a charity fundraiser. Read the dates. "Barb." The article was from 2013. Derek Brennan had served 18 months before his release on parole in late 2014. For months before he met my daughter. I stumbled to Frank's desk chair. Jessica, 36 years old, a pediatric nurse who saved children's lives, had married a convicted criminal. She'd given him 2 babies, 8-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Owen. "There's a pattern," Frank said. "He targets widows with daughters, gains their trust, marries the daughter, slowly isolates them from family, then empties the accounts and vanishes. Usually takes the kids to use as leverage." My hand flew to my mouth. "The kids." "The flight reservation is for 2 adults and 2 children. He's planning to disappear with your grandkids." Barb, 3 years ago, when Jim died from a sudden heart attack, I'd been devastated. But I'd rebuilt. I had my small house, Jim's life insurance, and most importantly, I had Jessica and the grandkids 15 minutes away. Except nothing had been normal. Over the past 2 years, Derek had slowly been creating distance. "Jessica needs to focus on our immediate family," he'd say. "Maybe space out the visits." I thought I was being paranoid. Turned out I wasn't paranoid enough. Now I understood. He'd been isolating my daughter, preparing for his escape. "I need to tell Jessica." I stood up, the envelope clutched in my trembling hands. Frank caught my arm. "Be careful. If he realizes, he might move up his timeline. He's not taking my grandchildren. I don't care how dangerous he is." Frank studied my face. "Then we do this smart. Let me make some calls." By the time I left Morrison's an hour later, I had Frank's cousin, a retired FBI agent, ready to review the evidence. I had the envelope safely copied and hidden. I pulled into my daughter's driveway at 11:30. Through the window I could see Jessica in the kitchen. Lily's bicycle lay on the front lawn. Owen's toy trucks lined the porch. Normal, perfect, all built on lies. The evidence sat on my passenger seat. I took a deep breath and walked toward my daughter's front door, about to destroy her world to save it. Jessica answered the door with flour on her nose and a smile that nearly broke my heart. "Mom, perfect timing. I'm making cookies." Want to stay for lunch? Behind her, I could see Lily coloring at the kitchen table. Owen was building something with blocks. Everything looked so wholesome, so safe. I almost turned around. Actually, honey, we need to talk. Is Derek home? He's at work. Some big meeting. She wiped her hands on her apron. Mom, you look pale. Are you okay? Can we talk privately? Jessica's smile faded. She called to Lily. Sweetie, take Owen upstairs and play for a bit. Okay. Once the kids were upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table and placed the envelope between us. I need you to look at something. Please keep an open mind. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. I pulled out the driver's licenses first. Frank found these in Derek's car today. Jessica picked up the Maryland license, confusion crossing her face. Then the second one. Her hand started shaking. I don't understand. Why would Derek have two IDs with different names? Keep looking. She read through the documents, her face losing color with each page. When she got to the news article about Derek's conviction, she dropped the papers like they'd burned her. No, this is a mistake. Honey, look at the face. Lots of people look similar. This David Brennan person, maybe he just resembles Derek. But her voice was cracking. She knew. Somewhere deep down she recognized the truth. I pulled out my phone and showed her the flight confirmation. One-way tickets to Costa Rica, October 15th. 2 adults, 2 children. Lily would be listed as Lily Morrison. Owen as Owen Morrison. Morrison. Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. He's using Frank's last name. Probably to throw off anyone trying to track them. I reached across the table for her hand, but she pulled away. You're wrong. You've always been suspicious of Derek. You never thought he was good enough for me. That stung because it was partly true. Jessica, listen carefully. When did you meet Derek? February 2015. At the hospital charity gala. And when did he propose? That summer, June. She was defending the timeline automatically. Less than 8 months from meeting to marriage. Didn't that seem fast? It was romantic. He said. When you know, you know. But doubt had crept into her voice. I pulled out another document. This is Derek's parole paperwork. He was released January 20th, 2015, 4 weeks before he met you. Jessica stood up abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. I need you to leave. Honey, please. No. You show up here with fake documents. Try to destroy my marriage. I don't know why you're doing this, but it needs to stop. Look at the children's birth certificates. Check them against Derek's real birthday. I bet you'll find inconsistencies. Get out of my house. Jessica's voice was cold now. Protective mother cold. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize. I gathered the documents slowly. Jessica, I love you. I'm trying to protect you and the kids. The only thing they need protection from is their grandmother's paranoid delusions. She practically pushed me toward the door. Derek's been nothing but good to us. He provides for our family. Whatever Frank Morrison told you, it's lies. The door slammed in my face. Through the window, I watched my daughter sink onto the couch, her shoulders shaking. She'd started crying. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, debating whether to call the police immediately. But Frank's cousin had warned me that without more concrete evidence, authorities might not act fast enough. Derek would see it coming and vanish. My phone buzzed. A text from Frank. How did it go? Disaster. She kicked me out. Come back to the shop. My cousin's here. Frank's cousin, Marcus Crawford, was a bulky man in his 50s with sharp eyes. He listened to my account without interrupting. Typical response, he said finally. The spouse always defends them at first. It's cognitive dissonance. Accepting the truth means accepting that their entire marriage was a lie. So what do? We build an airtight case before confronting him directly. Marcus spread his notes across Frank's desk. I made some calls. Derek Brennan's real name is Derek Morrison. No relation to Frank. He's used at least 5 identities over 15 years. Each time. Same pattern. Targets vulnerable families, particularly those with recent loss. My husband died 3 years ago, right? But Derek met your daughter back in 2015. Well, before that, Marcus pulled out a timeline he'd sketched. These guys are long game players. He likely identified your daughter as a potential target years ago. Single mother. Healthcare professional, stable income. When your husband died 3 years ago, it gave him the perfect opportunity to tighten his grip. Suddenly, Jessica was more vulnerable, more dependent on Derek. He probably positioned himself as her rock during grief. The calculated cruelty of it made me sick. He's been planning this for 10 years possibly, or he saw an opportunity and adapted his plans. Either way, your daughter wasn't random. She was selected. Marcus spent the next hour explaining Derek's probable endgame. He'd been slowly transferring assets, probably telling Jessica they were investments. The Costa Rica flight would be followed by new identities for himself and the kids. Jessica would be left behind, too afraid to involve police because Derek would threaten to disappear with Lily and Owen forever. Women in her position often don't report it, Marcus explained. They're terrified of never seeing their children again. He'll send occasional photos, proof of life, in exchange for her silence. Maybe even demand more money periodically. I felt sick. How do we stop him? We need Jessica to cooperate. She has to check their accounts, look for irregularities, but more importantly, she needs to act normal around Derek. If he suspects she knows, he'll vanish immediately. She won't talk to me. Frank cleared his throat. Maybe she doesn't have to yet. Both Marcus and I turned to him. Frank looked uncomfortable but determined. Barb, you and I have been dancing around something for a while now. I'm asking you to dinner tomorrow night. A real date. Despite everything, I felt my face warm. You're asking me on a date while my daughter's family is falling apart. I'm asking because life is uncertain and precious, and I've wasted enough time being afraid. He squeezed my hand. Also, it gives me a legitimate reason to stay close to you. Derek knows we're old friends. If we start dating, I've got reason to be around more often. Extra eyes on the situation. Marcus nodded approvingly. That's smart thinking. I looked at Frank. Really looked at him. At 66, he'd aged well. Silver hair, laugh lines around blue eyes that had always seen through my defenses. We'd broken up 40 years ago because we were too young and scared. But now we were both alone and the connection, it had never really gone away. Okay, I said. Tomorrow night, pick me up at 7 o'clock. Frank's smile was like sunrise. It's a date, Marcus coughed. Once Derek's in custody, you two can candle all you want. Right now we need a plan. We spent another hour strategizing. Marcus would dig deeper into Derek's financial trail. Frank would use his contacts to gather information and I would find a way to get through to Jessica. That night, as I lay in bed, unable to sleep, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions about Derek Brennan. For your daughter's sake, my heart hammered as I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Marcus. His response came within minutes. Don't respond. Save everything. Abe, this confirms he's monitoring. I stared at my ceiling, thinking about my grandchildren sleeping 15 minutes away with a monster. Lily with her gap-toothed smile. Owen with his dinosaur obsession. Derek Morrison had picked the wrong family. I might be a 64-year-old widow, but I was also a woman who'd raised a daughter alone after Jim died, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep our house, who'd survived and rebuilt. And I wasn't about to let some con artist steal my grandchildren. The next morning, I woke to find my car's windshield smashed. No note, but the message was clear. I took photos, filed a police report, and called Marcus. He's escalating. Good, Marcus said. Surprising me. Means he's scared. Scared people make mistakes. Keep pushing. I spent the day at my insurance company, then got my windshield replaced. Frank texted to confirm our dinner, adding, "Stay strong." At 6:30, as I was getting ready, my phone rang. Jessica. My hand trembled as I answered. Hello, Mom. Her voice was small, broken. Can you come over? Derek's working late, and I need to show you something. I'll be right there. I arrived at Jessica's house in 12 minutes. She opened the door before I could knock, her eyes red from crying. I checked the accounts. Like you said, there's money missing. A lot of money. Jessica led me to Derek's home office. He always said it was his private workspace. I respected that. God, I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. She'd pulled up bank statements on Derek's computer. I logged in using the password I thought was just for our joint account. Turns out there are 6 other accounts I never knew about. Her finger traced the numbers on the screen. Over the last 18 months he's been moving money. Small amounts at first, but in the last 3 months it's accelerated. He's moved nearly $200,000. I felt cold. $200,000? My inheritance from Dad. The money he left me when he died. Derek convinced me to put it in high-yield investments. He said he'd handle everything. She laughed bitterly. I signed the papers without even reading them. I put my arm around her shoulders. She was shaking. Honey, I'm so sorry. There's more. She clicked to another folder. I found these emails. He's been communicating with someone named Valerie Morrison. She signs off with "love you" and talks about missing him and the kids. Our kids, Mom. He's telling another woman my children are hers. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd imagined. Derek wasn't just stealing money. He was selling a fantasy to multiple women, probably running the same con simultaneously. Have you confronted him? Not yet. I wanted you here first. Jessica wiped her eyes. You were right about everything. The multiple IDs, the flight to Costa Rica, all of it. I found the tickets printed out in his desk along with fake passports for the kids. Different names, different birth dates. We need to call the police now. I called them an hour ago. Jessica's voice hardened with determination. They're sending a detective over at 8. I told them everything. Pride swelled in my chest. My daughter was fighting back. What about the kids? They're at Miss Patricia's home daycare, the regular place I use when I work late shifts. I told her I needed a few extra hours tonight. She paused. I never let them go to Derek's parents' house. Something always felt off about that. Now I know why. They probably weren't even his parents. Smart instincts. Jessica stood up abruptly. I need you to take the kids tonight. After the detective leaves, I'm picking them up and bringing them to your house. Pack bags for a week. I don't want them here when Derek gets arrested. Arrested? The detective said they've been building a case against him. The FBI's had him under surveillance for 6 months. My call tonight gave them the final piece they needed. She met my eyes and I saw steel there. He's done, Mom. This time he's actually done. The doorbell rang at exactly 8 p.m. Detective Sarah Chan was a compact woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She listened as Jessica walked her through everything, taking notes and photographing documents. Mrs. Brennan, I need to be honest. Detective Chun said. Your husband is dangerous. He's wanted in connection with similar crimes in 4 states. When we move to arrest him, there's a possibility he'll try to flee. Jessica's jaw tightened. When will you arrest him? We're coordinating with federal agents. Ideally, we'd like to take him into custody at his workplace tomorrow afternoon. Public location, less chance of complications. He has weapons. My voice came out higher than intended. Detective Chin's expression softened. We have reason to believe he keeps a handgun in his vehicle. He's never been violent in previous cons, but we don't take chances. I had to ask. If you've been watching him for 6 months, why wait until now? Good question, Detective Chin said. Federal cases take time to build, especially when they cross state lines. We needed ironclad evidence of intent to commit a current crime, not just past offenses. The flight reservation and fake passports give us that. More importantly, we needed a victim willing to testify immediately. Your daughter's cooperation tonight means we can move fast before he realizes we're closing in. If we'd moved too early, a good lawyer might have gotten him off on technicalities. That made sense, sort of. I still didn't like how close we'd come to losing Lily and Owen. After the detective left, Jessica and I sat in silence. Finally, she said, that threat you got yesterday, the text message? Was it from Derek? Marcus thinks so. And your windshield this morning? It wasn't a question. He threatened my mother. What kind of monster does that? The kind who's about to spend a very long time in prison. We drove together to pick up Lily and Owen from Miss Patricia's cozy house. The elderly woman handed them over with a warm smile, completely unaware of the drama unfolding. Such good children, she said. See you next week. Actually, I'll call you, Jessica said, her voice steady despite everything. In the car, Lily chattered about the toys while Owen dozed in his booster seat. Jessica drove carefully, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, the way he'd get angry if I asked too many questions about his past. The times I caught him in small lies. He's a professional. I said. He knows exactly how to manipulate people. None of this is your fault, isn't it, though? You had reservations from the beginning. I squeezed her hand. You fell in love. There's no fault in that. At my house, I'd already prepared the guest room. Jessica helped me settle them in, both of us trying to maintain normally. After they were asleep, we sat at my kitchen table with tea. Neither of us drank. Frank called earlier. I said he wanted to check on you. Jessica managed a small smile. Frank Morrison. I always wondered if you two would reconnect. Dad used to joke about it. He'd say, if anything happens to me, you've got my blessing to find Frank. He knew you guys had something special. Tears stung my eyes. Jim was a good man. He was. And he'd want you to be happy. She paused. And he'd want me to be smart enough to learn from my mistakes. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Tomorrow 2 p.m. at Brennan's office. Be ready. I showed Jessica the message. Her expression hardened. Good. Let's end this. The next morning moved with surreal slowness. I made the kids pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for Owen and butterflies for Lily, trying to maintain normally while my stomach churned. At 9 a.m., Frank picked me up for breakfast. We went to a small diner 2 towns over, away from people who might know us. You barely slept, Frank observed, studying my face across the table. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined something going wrong. Derek getting away, the kids getting hurt. I wrapped my hands around my coffee mug. I keep thinking how close we came to losing them. Frank reached across the table and took my hand, but we didn't lose them. You found the evidence in time. That took courage, Barb. You barely knew me 40 years ago. I knew enough. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I knew you were fierce and loyal and that you loved with your whole heart. I knew breaking up with you was the stupidest thing I'd ever done. I looked at our joined hands. Why now, Frank? After all these years? Because Sarah's death taught me time isn't guaranteed. Because I spent 5 years grieving. And when I finally looked around, you were there. Still fierce, still beautiful. He squeezed my hand gently. Because I'm 66 years old and I'm tired of being afraid. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I can't think about us right now. Not until Eric is behind bars. I know. That's why this isn't a date. It's just 2 old friends waiting for the world to fall apart or come together. He smiled softly. But when this is over, Barb, I'm taking you to dinner. A real date. And I'm going to tell you all the things I should have said 40 years ago. My phone rang at 1:30 p.m. Marcus, they're in position. Derek's in his office for what he thinks is a routine afternoon. Does Jessica know to expect my call? She's ready. Tell her to stay calm no matter what happens. And Barb, you might want to have Frank there. Support system. Frank drove me home without being asked. We sat in my living room while we waited. At 1:55 my phone rang. Detective Chan, Mrs. Hayes, I wanted you to hear this from me. We have Derek Brennan in custody. He's being transported to federal holding. No incidents, no injuries. It's over. The relief was so intense I felt dizzy. Thank you. Thank you so much. After I hung up, I turned to Frank and just let myself break down. He held me while I sobbed. When I finally pulled back, his shirt was soaked, but he was smiling. See, I told you we had this. Jessica arrived an hour later. Her face pale but composed. They arrested him at his desk. Just walked in and put handcuffs on him. He tried to play innocent, but they had everything. How are you holding up? She sank onto my couch. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me is relieved. Part of me is humiliated. Everyone at his office knows. It'll be all over town by tomorrow. Jessica Hayes, the woman who protected her children and stopped a criminal. I corrected firmly. That's the story. Frank cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think your mother's right. You showed real strength. Jessica looked at him. Thank you for finding that evidence. If you hadn't been thorough, if you'd ignored that envelope, I pay attention to details, Frank said simply. But I'm glad I could help. An awkward silence fell. Then Jessica said, So you two, are you dating? Despite everything, I felt my face warm. We're figuring that out. Good. Jessica's expression softened. You deserve to be happy, Mom. You deserve your own happiness. 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, I learned he wasn't just a con man. He was a monster with a much longer reach than any of us had imagined. Marcus called me on a Tuesday morning. "Barb, I need you and Jessica to come to my office. There's something you need to see." We arrived within the hour. Marcus had photographs spread across his desk. Women, at least 7 of them, all with children. These are Derek's other victims over the last 15 years. The FBI's been tracking him, but he was always one step ahead. Until Jessica picked up one photo. A woman with dark hair and 2 young boys. Who is she? Amanda Pierce married Derek in 2008 under the name Daniel Morrison. He drained her accounts and disappeared with her sons in 2010. They were found 2 years later in Mexico. By then, the boys didn't even remember their mother. Marcus pointed to another photo. Karen Stiles, 2012. Same pattern. She lost her daughter for 3 years. I felt sick. How many children? 12 that we know of. Some were returned, some weren't. Derek would use them as leverage, demanding money from the mothers. Some women paid for years just to get occasional proof their kids were alive. Jessica's face had gone white. If we hadn't caught him, Lily and Owen would have been. But we did catch him, I said firmly, though my own hands were shaking. And now he can't hurt anyone else. Marcus pulled out another file. There's more. The prosecutor wants you both to testify at trial. So do 3 other victims. Derek's facing charges in 5 states. With all the evidence, he's looking at 40 years minimum. 40 years, Jessica repeated. He'll be in his 70s when he gets out. If he gets out, Marcus corrected. With his history and the severity of the charges, there's a good chance he'll die in prison. Frank was waiting in his truck outside Marcus's office. One look at my face and he pulled me into his arms. Bad news? Worse than we thought? I told him about the other victims, the missing children, the decades of destruction Derek had left behind. I keep thinking, what if I hadn't asked you to clean his car that day? What if you hadn't found that envelope? But I did find it. And you acted on it. That's what matters. He kissed my forehead. You saved your grandchildren, Barb, and probably future victims, too. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about those other mothers, the years they'd lost with their children, the trauma that would never fully heal. I'd been lucky. We'd caught Derek before he could disappear. But luck wasn't justice. The next morning, I made a decision. I called each of the women Marcus had shown me. My name is Barbara Hayes, I told them. Derek Brennan tried to take my grandchildren. I want to make sure he never gets the chance to hurt another family. Will you help me? By the end of the week, I'd spoken to all 7 women. Each had a story that made me want to cry. Each had scars that would never fully fade. But each also had the same fire I'd felt when I first saw that envelope, the need for justice. We formed a group, called ourselves the Survivor Circle. Not very original, but it felt right. We met via video calls, sharing our stories, supporting each other through the legal process, and we made a pact. We would all testify. Every single one of us would stand in that courtroom and make sure Derek Brennan never walked free again. Jessica joined our calls. At first, she was quiet, listening to the other women. But gradually she began to share, too. I thought I was so smart, she said during our 3rd meeting. I'm a nurse. I'm educated. How did I not see it? Because he's a professional. Amanda Pierce said. Her voice was kind but firm. He studied us, learned our weaknesses. None of us are stupid. We were targeted by someone who made deception his life's work. The solidarity was healing in a way I hadn't expected. These women understood what we'd been through in a way no one else could. And together we were stronger than Derek could ever be. Derek's first attempt to manipulate from prison came exactly 1 month after his arrest. Jessica received a letter handwritten on prison stationery. Dear Jessica, I know you must be confused and hurt, but please understand everything I did was for us, for our family. The money I moved was to protect it from my enemies. The flight to Costa Rica was a safety measure. I never meant to hurt you. Please bring the kids to visit me. I missed them terribly. Love, Derek. Jessica read it aloud to me, her voice shaking with rage. He still thinks I'm stupid enough to fall for his lies. Don't respond, Marcus advised when we showed him the letter. He's fishing, trying to see if he still has any control over you. Any response, even angry, tells him he's getting to you. But Derek didn't stop. Letters arrived weekly, each one more desperate, more manipulative. He claimed he was being framed, that the evidence was planted, that the other victims were lying for money. When Jessica continued to ignore him, he tried a different tactic. Lily received a card in the mail. To my darling daughter, Daddy loves you so much. I hope you're being a good girl. I'll see you soon. Saxo. Jessica immediately called Marcus. He sent my 8-year-old daughter a card from prison. How is that even possible? He probably had someone on the outside mail it for him, Marcus said. Well, trace it. In the meantime, screen all mail before the kids see it. The cards kept coming. One for Owen, another for Lily. Each trying to maintain Derek's image as a loving father who'd been wrongly accused. Jessica burned every single one. He's trying to poison them against me, she said one night over dinner at my house. Making himself the victim so they'll beg me to forgive him. They're smart kids, I said. They'll see through it eventually. But doubt crept in anyway. Lily had started asking questions. Why is Daddy in jail? Did he really do bad things? Owen was too young to fully understand, but he'd started having nightmares. Frank, who'd been quietly eating his pot roast, set down his fork. Maybe it's time to tell them the truth. Age-appropriate version. But the truth. Kids know when adults are hiding things and they imagine worse than reality. Jessica and I looked at each other. He was right. We'd been trying to protect them, but our silence was creating more fear. That weekend, Jessica sat down with both kids. I was there for support. Frank too. Your father made some very bad choices. Jessica told them gently. He lied to people and took things that didn't belong to him. He hurt families, including ours. That's why he's in jail. Did he hurt you? Mommy? Lily asked, her eyes wide. Not physically, but yes, he hurt me. And he was planning to take you and Owen away from me. Grandma stopped him. Owen looked at me with new respect. Grandma's a hero. Despite everything, I had to smile. I just did what grandmas do, protect their families. Though internally I thought, yes, Owen, your grandma is basically a superhero. Cape optional. The conversation was hard but necessary. Afterward, Lily hugged me tight. Thank you for saving us, Grandma. Frank drove me home that night. You handled that well, he said. All of you did. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. I admitted Derek's too quiet now. No more letters, no more cards. It makes me nervous. Actually, Frank said. Marcus told me earlier that the prison restricted Derek's mail privileges after they traced those cards. Turns out he was using another inmate's girlfriend to send them. Once they found out, they shut it down. That explained the sudden silence. Good. Maybe he'll finally realize he has no power anymore. Frank pulled into my driveway but didn't turn off the engine. Barb, can I ask you something? Of course. When this is all over, when Derek's sentenced and Jessica's rebuilt her life, what do you want for yourself? I mean, I looked at this man who'd somehow become essential to my daily life. I want peace. I want to watch my grandkids grow up. I want to stop looking over my shoulder and us. His voice was soft. What do you want for us? I took his hand. I want everything we missed out on 40 years ago. If you're offering, his smile was brilliant even in the dim light. I'm offering. I'm asking. Barbara Hayes, when this nightmare is finally over, will you let me court you properly? Dates and flowers and all the romance we were too young to appreciate back then. Frank Morrison, I would like that very much. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm falling in love with you all over again. Good, I said, because I never really stopped. The anonymous email arrived on a Thursday morning. No sender address, no subject line, just a message. Derek wasn't working alone. Watch your back. I forwarded it to Marcus immediately. His response was instant. Don't open any attachments. Don't click any links. I'm tracing this. Within hours, Marcus was at my door with Detective Chun. We need to talk about Derek's associate, someone named Vincent Hall. Who? Marcus pulled out a file. Vincent Hall, 42. Derek's cellmate in 2013. They kept in contact after release. We found encrypted messages between them dating back 3 years. Vincent helped Derek with the financial transfers, set up the fake accounts in the Cayman Islands. He's the one who booked the Costa Rica flights. My blood ran cold. Is he still out there? Yes. And according to the messages, he's not happy Derek got caught. He thinks you and Jessica ruined a very profitable operation. Detective Chun leaned forward. Mrs. Hayes, we're putting protection on you and your family. Vincent Hall has a history of violence that Derek lacks. If he blames you for Derek's arrest, you could be in danger. What about Jessica? The kid's already arranged. Plainclothes officers watching their house. We're taking this seriously. Frank insisted on staying at my house that night. I'm not leaving you alone with some violent criminal lurking around. You could get hurt. So could you. And I'm not letting that happen. He squeezed my hand. Besides, I've got a shotgun in my truck. Legally registered and everything. Anyone tries to hurt you, they'll regret it. Despite the situation, I felt safer with him there. We sat in my living room, lights low, watching old movies and pretending everything was normal. Around midnight, my security system chimed. Someone was in my backyard. Frank grabbed his phone to call 911, while I pulled up the security camera feed. A figure in dark clothing was trying my back door, testing the handle, looking for a way in. Police are on their way, Frank whispered. 2 minutes out, the figure moved to a window, pulling something from their pocket. A crowbar. They were going to break in. Oh, wonderful, I thought, because my week wasn't exciting enough already. Frank grabbed his shotgun from where he'd left it by the door. Stay behind me. Frank, don't. The window shattered. The figure started climbing through. Frank pumped the shotgun, the sound unmistakable. I'd stop right there if I were you. The figure froze half in and half out of my window. Then sirens filled the air. Police lights flooded my yard. The figure tried to run but tripped on the windowsill, falling hard onto my living room floor. Officers poured through my front door seconds later, weapons drawn. They had the intruder in handcuffs within moments. When they pulled off the ski mask, I saw a man I'd never met. Vincent Hall, according to his driver's license. Detective Chun arrived 10 minutes later. You okay, Mrs. Hayes? I'm fine, thanks to Frank. Vincent Hall was screaming about wrongful arrest as they dragged him to the police car. You can't prove anything. I was just checking on her. Derek asked me to make sure she was safe. Sure, Detective Chun said dryly. That's why you broke her window with a crowbar at midnight. For her safety. After everyone left and the window was temporarily boarded up, Frank and I sat on my couch. I was shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off. He was going to hurt me, but he didn't. And now he can't. Frank pulled me close. It's over, Barb. Derek's in custody. Vincent's arrested. You're safe. Vincent Hall's arrest broke the case wide open. Faced with charges of breaking and entering, attempted assault and conspiracy, he started talking. The deal he cut with prosecutors meant testifying against Derek in exchange for reduced charges. Vincent gave us everything, Marcus told me and Jessica a week later. Bank records, communication logs, details about other victims we didn't know about. Derek's going away for life, guaranteed. The trial was set for April, 6 months away. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Linda Reeves, met with us to prepare our testimonies. Derek's lawyer will try to paint him as a victim of circumstances, someone who made mistakes but never intended real harm. We need you to show the jury the truth. The survivors' circle met more frequently as the trial approached. We supported each other through panic attacks, nightmares, moments of doubt. Amanda Pierce became like a sister to me. I never thought I'd be grateful to Derek for anything, she said during one of our calls. But bringing all of us together, we're stronger now than we ever were. Frank proposed on a Saturday in February. Nothing fancy, just the two of us having dinner at my house. He got down on one knee right there in my kitchen holding a simple gold band. I wasted 40 years, Barb. I don't want to waste another day. Will you marry me? I said yes before he even finished the question. We decided to wait until after the trial to actually get married. We wanted Jessica and the kids to fully heal first, to have a celebration untainted by Derek's shadow. Jessica was thrilled when we told her. Dad would be happy. Mom, he always said Frank was the one that got away. The trial began on April 15th. The courthouse was packed. Media everywhere, cameras recording every moment. Derek walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit, looking thinner and older than I remembered. His eyes found mine in the gallery, and for a moment I saw pure hatred. Good, I thought. Hate me all you want. You're still going to prison and I'm going to watch. The prosecutor's opening statement was devastating. She laid out Derek's pattern of deception, the timeline of victims, the stolen children. The jury looked horrified. Derek's lawyer tried to counter. painting his client as a troubled man who'd lost his way, but it rang hollow. I testified on day 3, walked the jury through finding the envelope, confronting Jessica. The fear I'd felt knowing my grandchildren were in danger. He wasn't just stealing money, I said. He was stealing childhoods, futures, families. Jessica testified next. Her voice was steady, strong. I trusted him with everything. My heart, my children, my inheritance. He repaid that trust by planning to kidnap my babies and disappear. That's not a mistake. That's evil. One by one, the other victims testified. Amanda Pierce broke down, describing the 2 years she'd spent not knowing if her sons were alive. Karen Stiles showed photos of her daughter before and after, the trauma visible in the child's eyes. By day 7, the jury was visibly upset. Vincent Hall's testimony sealed Derek's fate. He described their partnership in clinical detail, the fake identities they'd created together, the offshore accounts, the escape routes they'd planned. Derek was always the face, Vincent said. I was the logistics. We made millions over the years. It was a business to us. A business that destroyed families, the prosecutor said coldly. The defense tried to discredit Vincent, pointing out his plea deal, but the evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, emails, recorded phone calls. There was no denying what Derek had done. Closing arguments happened on day 12. The prosecutor spoke for an hour, systematically dismantling any sympathy for Derek. This is a man who built his life on the suffering of others. He deserves no mercy because he showed none. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the foreman's voice was firm. Guilty on all counts. Derek's face went blank. His lawyer slumped in defeat. And in the gallery, 7 mothers clutched each other's hands and cried with relief. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, looked at Derek with open disgust. Mr. Morrison or Brennan or whatever your real name is, I've presided over many cases in my career. But I've rarely encountered someone as callous and calculated as you. You targeted vulnerable families. You stole not just money but years of people's lives. You traumatized children for your own gain. She sentenced him to 45 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Derek would be 93 years old if he ever got out. The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge banged her gavel, but didn't try very hard to restore order. As they led Derek away in chains, he looked at me one last time. I met his gaze steadily, refusing to look away. You lose, I thought. We won, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing it. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. But Linda Reeves, our prosecutor, handled it beautifully. These women showed incredible courage. They refused to be victims. They fought back and won. That's the real story here. The survivors' circle went to dinner that night. 7 women who'd started as strangers, now bonded by shared trauma and triumph. We toasted with champagne and laughed until we cried. To Barbara, Amanda said, raising her glass, who started this journey and led us through it. To all of us, I corrected. We did this together. Frank and I got married 3 months later in a small ceremony in my backyard. Lily was the flower girl, Owen the ring bearer. Jessica stood beside me as matron of honor. Marcus and Detective Chun came as guests. Even Linda Reeves showed up with a beautiful gift. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the minister said. You may kiss your bride. Frank did thoroughly while our small gathering cheered. When we pulled apart, he whispered, 40 years late but worth the wait. Absolutely worth it. Jessica had started therapy and was doing well. The kids were resilient, already bouncing back with the adaptability of youth. She'd even started dating again, carefully and slowly, but with hope. The house that had been tainted by Derek's presence was sold, and she'd bought a smaller place closer to me. The inheritance money Derek had stolen was recovered and returned to Jessica after the trial. She used some of it to pay off her mortgage and put the rest in trust for Lily and Owen's college funds. This time, she said, I'm keeping control of my own finances. Frank and I merged our lives with surprising ease. He sold his car wash to his nephew and semi-retired. We traveled, took up dancing, spent time with the grandkids. Simple pleasures that felt extraordinary after everything we'd been through. One evening, almost a year after Derek's sentencing, Jessica and the kids came for dinner. We ate on the patio, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Lily chattered about her soccer team. Owen showed us his latest rock collection. Normal, beautiful, peaceful. You know what I was thinking about today? Jessica said that envelope Frank found. Such a small thing really. A forgotten envelope under a car seat, but it changed everything. Frank reached for my hand. Sometimes the smallest things have the biggest impact. Sometimes the right person notices at the right time, I added, and has the courage to act. And sometimes, Jessica said, her voice thoughtful. Bad things happen that lead to good things. I would never have chosen to go through what Eric put us through, but it brought you and Frank back together. It connected us with the other survivors. It taught me I'm stronger than I ever knew. I looked around at my family, my daughter who'd survived and thrived, my grandchildren who were healing, my husband who'd waited 40 years for a second chance. You know what? You're absolutely right. We're all stronger now. As darkness fell and fireflies began their dance, Frank pulled me close. Happy Mrs. Morrison. Deliriously I said, and meant it. The nightmares would probably never fully disappear. The scars Derek left would always be there, faint but present. But we'd taken something terrible and transformed it into something powerful. We'd found justice. We'd found each other. We'd found ourselves. And that, I thought as I looked at my family gathered around my table, was the best revenge of all. Not just surviving but thriving. Not just enduring but flourishing. Derek had tried to destroy us. Instead, we built something beautiful from the ashes. Grandma, Lily called from the yard where she was chasing fireflies with Owen. Come play with us. I looked at Frank. He grinned. Go ahead. I'll clean up. I ran into the yard chasing fireflies with my grandchildren while my daughter laughed and my husband watched with love in his eyes. 65 and running around like a teenager. I thought Derek would be so annoyed that I'm this happy. The thought made me smile even wider. This was what Eric had tried to take from us. This joy, this connection, this life. He'd failed and we'd won. Not just in court but in every moment since. Every laugh, every hug, every peaceful sunset. Every single ordinary, extraordinary day. And that was the greatest victory of all. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.